YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here. Wanted to talk a little bit about why the Dwarfs struggle so mightily. We mentioned it a little bit yesterday, and I gave you a few tips on how to defend your guys. Those tips are honestly frivolous. And the reason I say that is because the Dwarfs, against someone who knows what they're doing, have limited capability. Now, there are better players at the game than me who can play the Dwarfs better than me, but I'm going to talk a little bit about why they just can't defend themselves against someone like the vampires. And the vampires should almost never lose a battle to the dwarfs if they know what they're doing. And in this case, I figured that my opponent knew what he was doing. I saw that he was a clan member, so he probably plays a lot, and he's probably going to know what he's doing. And sure enough, he's got flying units. Fell bats are the first and foremost nuisance for dwarfs, and you'll see why. He's got cryptors. Dwarfs have an extremely hard time dealing with cryptors, and part of the reason is, so I've brought thunders, and I even have a flame cannon. Now the flame cannon may be a questionable pick. Why? Because it's so expensive. I could get a cannon for cheaper and it has longer range, but both are going to suffer the same fate in the end when it comes to their effectiveness versus the vampires. So let me explain. He's got a line of Graveguard. The Graveguard can easily destroy any dwarf infantry other than hammers, and hammers are too expensive to bring. You won't be able to protect them. He's got 2 units of cavalry over here. One's a Hex Wraith, and the other one is a Black Knight. Or no, it's a Black Knight with lances and barding. The other one's a Black Knight. Plenty of cavalry. You don't need Blood Knights or anything more fancy with the dwarfs. They can't stop normal cavalry, much less the really good stuff. And then he's got these skeleton warriors. Not even necessary. Vlad von Karstein. Claw of Nagash and Corpse Cart. Big surprise, right? Because I'm not saying they're like OP to the point where you can't play the game, but they're OP. They heal your guys ridiculously fast. That's why I mentioned this in the first video. A lot of you still vehemently agree with me. You say it's really easy to kill them. Let's watch and see. I've got 2 Thunders, which are very good at killing the Claw of Nagash. And I've even got a Flame Cannon, which is going to be really good at causing damage to enemy infantry. So I have a lot of the things that vampires should be weak against, right? Right. First hit, great. Flame Cannon does a ton of damage. It's going to keep firing. Here's the problem. Watch his bats. I shoot at them. I can't keep shooting at them because I have a Claw of Nagash bearing down on me, so I've got to try and shoot the Claw of Nagash. All he has to do is immediately pull away, and he's going to replenish so quickly that my damage won't matter. And now look. My flame cannon's tied down. I can't do the damage to his infantry, which now means I'm definitely going to lose the infantry fight. So I've got to wait and kill these bats. And I have defenses set up. You'll notice that my guys are helping me kill the bats with all due haste. He raises a unit of zombies. So now I've got 6,000 more hit points to kill before I can get my cannons free. So while all this is going on, his infantry comes in completely unopposed. His cryptors and Graveguard are going to make mincemeat out of my lazy dwarfs. They're not going to be able to do anything about it. I've got my Dwarf Lord over here. I've even got supporting units in here to try and make my guys be stronger. I've got Thanes. Some people are like, well, you should do a Runesmith. One way or the other, the Runesmith's not going to make a whole lot of difference in this battle because the vampires are... Look at this. I can't even damage the Sternsman Graveguard right here. It's healing faster than I'm damaging it. Some of their units are taking some damage. Here comes the cavalry. So this is why cavalry is such a danger to dwarves. Look, I have 2 units in front of them, but they still get through to my skirmishers. And he's just going to pull through to my skirmishers. There's nothing I can do to stop these guys. The dwarfs do not have the spears. They don't have the mass. They cannot stop cavalry. They cannot stop flying units unless you get really, really lucky and your opponent just completely bungles it. And my opponent's not here. See how he charges? He's going to pull out. Again, the whole time my guys are disrupted. I can't shoot the Mortis engine. It's slowly damaging my guys in a fight that I'm already losing up front. You can't stop Cryptors. Cryptors just tore right through my men, and now they're wreaking havoc in my back lines. You can't stop the vampires from raising men behind your lines. So a defensive formation in Total War Warhammer is completely porous. You can't do anything about it. Not with the dwarfs, at least. Now, if I had had halberds or something guarding these backlines, I could stop the cavalry charges, but the dwarfs don't have any halberd units. They don't have any spear units. Their only anti-cavalry unit is slayers. And I have a unit of slayers. They're killing a ton of bats. They're killing a ton of zombies. This is the 2nd unit of zombies I've had to deal with. So you can see Vlad von Karstein can just sit around and laugh as his men win the fight, and every tool that I have that's anti-vampire gets wasted on throwaway units like these zombies, and I can't control his cavalry. There's just literally nothing that I can do about this. I have no way to quickly kill his lords because I can't get my thunders free for half a second. They'll finally get free over here. Again, I'll put a few shots on the Claw of Nagash. It's going to be healing them quicker than one unit of Thunderers can damage it, especially a damaged unit of Thunderers. So those tests where I showed you how quick Thunderers kill the Claw of Nagash, it's absolutely true, but that's only if your opponent is crazy enough to leave it parked right in front of your Thunderers. And in this case, he can leave it parked, but he chooses not to. He's going to bring it over here. Again, so I mean, the damage that my guys are sustaining is just unbearable. I cannot win in this case. You'll see that his skeletons, the Sternsmen, still completely alive because of their regenerate. Even zombies are still alive over here. And then the Cryptors I'm not even touching. This Skeleton Warrior's over here still alive. One Graveguard with great weapons, slightly damaged. The Corpse Cart, I can't damage it. I don't have any units to damage it. I'm having to try and fend off his cavalry in the background. My men can't keep up with the cavalry, so the cavalry just continue to run amok. Combine that with the Cryptors and all the scare units that are around, you just cannot protect yourself from the vampires. It can't be done. And this is why you don't see the Dwarfs ever played when people are being seriously competitive in Total War Warhammer, like in terms of like, you know, where they've had little tournaments and stuff like that. They're just not viable. So there's a couple of things in my mind that the Creative Assembly should do, and it makes sense. The Dwarves are stout, stocky little armored dudes. Give them the mass to withstand a cavalry charge. Most of them have a bonus or a defense bonus against large, which is great. But these guys do not have the mass to stop cavalry units. They cannot pin flying units on the ground. The Vampire didn't even use anything but bats on me here. Trust me, it gets a lot worse whenever you're facing off against Karl Franz, 2 Amber Wizards, and 2 Feral Manticores. This just becomes even more of a slaughter. So that's the problem with the Dwarves. They cannot pin fast units. They have no good counter to fast units. And so because of this, their skirmishers and their cannons get wrecked. There will be occasions where Dwarfs will win. There are the rare occasions where they win, where your opponent doesn't play. But in this case, where my opponent not only is a better player, but he's got the better faction, he knows what he's doing, you will not win this battle. I made the battle in some ways look kind of close, but he didn't come with a ton of units to the battlefield in the first place. He doesn't have to. Like I said, he raised 2 zombies in the middle of my men, and I'm not doing this to whine. My opponent was a better player here. You know, all things being equal, even if the Dwarves were what I think they were, I think he has a chance to win this because he's a better player. And that's not what I'm trying to poo-poo on. What I'm pooing on here is the fact that the Dwarves just literally cannot defend themselves against this kind of vampire nonsense. And I say nonsense. This is the vampires. This is what they do. I cannot stop the Graveguard from pulling through my front lines. They will pull through. They've got the mass to do it. You can't stop them. If the Crypt Horrors don't get my men, he can raise zombies up in the middle of my guys like you saw right there, and I can't shoot. My artillery is made worthless by a few mana points of a spell from any vampire lord, basically, that you can bring. On top of that, Fell Bats. Cheap, fast, effective meat shields. Done. What can you do? So I just wanted to make this commentary again, not to be whiny or complainy, but just to kind of point something out. And I'm going to try and link this to Creative Assembly. Please, for the sake of goodness, help the Dwarves. They don't deserve this. Look at them. The proud Dawi getting chucked around like this and really not having much of a chance to fight. And then the other thing I think that's kind of funny too is that people acted like when I showed the corpse cart along with the Claw of Nagash, they kind of acted like, people won't really use that. It's not that good. Really? Here's the clan guy using it. And I'm not saying that to be mean, but clan guys play a lot. They play the game a lot. They know what to do. They know how to take advantage. It's not a coincidence that this guy's using this. This combination is very powerful. You saw how it kept his troops pretty much healed throughout the whole battle. And he knows what he's doing. So I'm telling you that this combination of these things, that stacking regen effect, even with the regen cap, thank goodness they have the regen cap. Like I said, at first I wasn't a big fan of it. But once I've seen this, I'm all of a sudden a fan of it. Not really. I'm saying that I think there's better ways to handle it. But the stacking regen effect from these guys is absolutely absurd. On top of the fact that they already hold every upper hand on a faction like the Dwarves. Now, the Empire might still be able to go toe-to-toe with the Vampires, but I don't want to have to pick the Empire every time someone picks the Vampires. It'd kind of be nice to see a few things get changed, like the stacking regen. That needs to go. I actually kind of felt like the Vampires were finally in a decent place in the last patch, And I love the new units. I love the flavor that those new units add to the vampires. I just don't agree with the way that they've been balanced in and with the way some of those abilities stack on each other. So I'm not opposed to the change in the new units. I like it. I think that's part of what makes this game fun. It's kind of like adding figures to your collection. Like you get these DLCs and you get to add these cool new units and all that stuff. So again, I'm a fan of this. I think it's a good idea. I'm just not a big fan of, like I said, those stacking regen effects are stupid and they're unnecessary. Also, give the dwarfs some mass. Give the dwarfs a spear unit. For goodness sakes, they need a unit that is cheaper than 1,000 gold that has some kind of anti-large capability. So for goodness sakes, give the dwarfs a spear unit. If it's not lore friendly or whatever, screw the lore. Come on, man. I mean, for the sake of Total War, they need a spear unit. It may not be the same in the tabletop game, but for the sake of Total War, they're dying out here without some kind of way to fight back against cavalry. In this case, part of me kind of wishes that I would have ended up with, well, no, I say that. I was about to say that I wish I would have ended up with gyrocopters. Never mind, because he had the 3 bat units, and the bats would have been the end of my gyrocopters. See what I mean? That's the challenge you come up against. It's like the gyrocopters might have seemed like they'd be handy there because they could pick it as cavalry, but he's got the bats. And all he has to do is keep his bats out of range of my thunders, and eventually they'll get a shot at my gyrocopters, and gyrocopters can't handle bats in melee. So I don't know, there's just a lot of frustrating points for me. What do you all think needs to be fixed about the dwarves? Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I whiny? Yeah, no, like I said, good game to Han. He played the game well. I knew he would when I came into that Han Samurai or whatever his name was. I knew he would play the game well, and that's why I picked the dwarves. I did this on purpose. I wanted to challenge myself. I knew that Han was going to play the vampires well, and I wanted to bring the dwarfs against him. I did lose as I expected to. I tried to put up a fight. I'm sure there's things that I could have done better, maybe a little bit better army picks and stuff like that, but I feel like that's still a good demonstration of a lot of the weaknesses that the dwarfs face against other factions. Again, though, please feel free to disagree with me. Always love to see your opinion. If you enjoyed the video and you want to subscribe, there's a logo down in the bottom right-hand corner. Appreciate MSI sponsoring the build that I'm recording this on, and I appreciate you, the awesome viewer, for always watching and participating. Really appreciate you coming back each time and the feedback that you leave for me. It's a real pleasure to get to do this for you every day. HeirofCarthage, signing out.